Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new episode of the NASCAR Heat 5 Career Mode here on the channel. Today we go racing here in the Xfinity Series as well as the Cup Series, but for the Xfinity Series we go road racing for the first time this season at Mid-Ohio, and for the Cup Series on the lineup today we have one of my favorite mile and a halves on the schedule at Kansas Speedway. But of course we come into the Xfinity Series here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course where we actually had a bit of a change up here in the driver roster. We've been kind of going back between myself, Eric Jones, and Kyle Busch, as well as Denny Hamlin so far in the 54 car for Joe Gibbs Racing this season. But today we have James Davidson, which was recommended in the comment section, and actually that comment got quite a few likes, so I decided we're going to put James Davidson in here for the road courses this season in the 54 car, and he started up inside the top 10, or actually no, I think he started 9th or 11th, he was somewhere in there, but now he's came through out of turns 1 though, just behind the 7 of Justin Allgaier here as he goes down this first little straightaway into turns 2. But Mid-Ohio definitely always, for me personally as a driver in NASCAR Heat, not my greatest road course on the schedule, usually the one I struggle at the most. So definitely not sure how James was going to kind of rank up against everybody, but he was being aggressive early on, making a 3 wide down this back straightaway, and he was closing up on the back of the 22 of a road ringer here in the Xfinity Series of Austin Cindric as he goes through up the inside of Cindric there, but he goes a little bit wide, leaves the door open for Justin Allgaier to pounce back on the opportunity, but James Davidson was able to stay ahead of both Allgaier and Cindric there after kind of missing the corner a little bit. So James, though, kind of settled out right here, though, in that position for the lap. Then he came through now on the next lap, though, going down towards turns 2. He was able to get up the inside of Chase Briscoe, as well as get up to the back of the 1 of Michael Annett now as he came through out of turns 2. So now moving his way towards that top 5 now, as if he passes the 1 of Michael Annett, he'll be right up in around that top 5 position. I think he will be P5 now as it goes to the left-hand side of Annett there. Instead of going to the right-hand side, he clears Annett, though, but Annett's going to fight back into the turns 3, and now they're going to be side by side now as Annett's actually going to get clear and put the pressure back on Davidson, who tries to fight back up the left side but gets too much curb. He gets sideways, but he's going to pounce to the right hand side and make a move there now as he's going to be able to pass Michael Annett there as he roughs him up a little bit, making a little bit of contact, but he makes the pass work now. And as he came through a little bit later on this lap, the caution would actually come out for Noah Gragson, who you see there in the grass, who had spun out from the lead, and this would force NASCAR overtime, putting Davidson all the way up in the 3rd position now as he came through on this restart behind the Canadian of Alex Labbe as he goes down this first straightaway here since the restart now as we go down side by side for the lead between Davidson and Labbe, but he goes a little bit deep into the corner, leaving the space for Labbe as it comes through turns 2. So they're going to be side by side for the lead now on the exit of the corner, but Labbe gets clear down the back straightaway out of the 2nd corner, and Davidson would not be able to run him down. He came through into turns 3. He actually played it a little bit too safe and gave up more ground to Labbe, who was driving away here with just 2 laps to go in Mid-Ohio for the BL Transport 170 now as he came through to the final lap. Even more ground lost. Now obviously 1 goal. Bring it home at this point, but James Davidson so comfortable on road courses that, you know, we still expect him to be aggressive on this final lap here as he goes down the straightaway towards turns 2, but this time he's going to send it in really deep into turns 2, get on the brakes very hard, and he actually gained a good chunk of ground there on Alex Labbe. Now he probably cut that gap about in half, so now all of a sudden he decides he's going to do the same thing into turns 3. He sends it in very deep, so deep that he gets into the back of Labbe there into turns 3. Labbe saves it, into the grass goes Davidson. He hangs onto the car, doesn't really lose much ground now as he's actually going to start gaining a little bit now as he closes in on the final few corners of this race here in Mid-Ohio. He's closing the gap now as he comes through now, but there's trouble behind. The 38 of Jeff Green goes off the track into the tire barrier, and now he is coming back into traffic, and that's going to bring out a caution and end the race early here in Mid-Ohio as a caution flies on the final lap as Davidson was closing in on the back of Labbe, and unfortunately will have to settle now for the 2nd position there as a Canadian goes to victory lane here in the Xfinity Series in Mid-Ohio, but at the same time cannot complain about a 2nd place finish here from James Davidson, and he will have a few more chances throughout this season at Road America as well as Watkins Glen and maybe even the Roval further down the line. But now we come through into the Cup Series weekend here in Kansas. We got the Sports Clips colors back on the car for this weekend here in Kansas Speedway. Like I said before, one of my favorite tracks to race at in this game, and of course, probably my second favorite mile and a half, right behind Homestead, Miami now, as we came through in qualifying through turns 1 and 2. I always run the top lane here at Kansas, but in qualifying I drop down to the bottom, and we nearly get into the wall there on the exit of turns 2, and then I dive down into turns 3, right on that white line without touching the apron, thankfully now, but we push up quite hard on the exit of turns 4, nearly into the wall again, but we keep it out there, as the goal was a 30.910, we crossed the line with a 31.214, so not hitting our goal, and we go P18 here in qualifying for the Digital Ally 400 at Kansas Speedway. So definitely not the greatest qualifying effort, definitely some work to do here on the race, but I'm confident that we can work our way forwards using that outside lane to our advantage. There's Clint Boyer, he will round out the top 20, Jimmy Johnson P16, and on pole we got Martin Truex Jr. Alright guys, thank you for giving us a good car, hopefully for this weekend. I'm going to give it everything I got, and hopefully at the end of tonight we'll get our first win. Let's go get it. Alright, there you heard the radio transmission as we're ready to go green here in Kansas, but one thing to look at, Jimmy Johnson in his final season here. Look at his season so far. 1 top 10, only 12 laps led, and an average finish of 21.1. So not the greatest start to the season for the 7-time champion of Jimmy Johnson in his final season, but we got to watch out for Daniel Suarez tonight, who has apparently been dominant all weekend, and then you got Clint Boyer, who was starting at the back of the field after an engine change at the end of qualifying. So, Boyer starting at the back, he's currently in a tough situation to make the playoffs right now, needs some points. He's given up a few wins this season now, as the green flag is out, and we are underway here in Kansas Speedway from the 18th starting position now, due to Clint Boyer starting at the back of the field here in the Digital Ally 400 at Kansas Speedway. Martin Truex Jr., Christopher Bell up there in P1 and P2. Christopher Bell has always been up in the mix this season, but he hasn't quite pulled off that victory. Cole Custer, another driver who's had a few chances at victories and has come up short, along with his teammate of Clint Boyer, who gave away a win at Talladega as well as Richmond, both in late restart scenarios. Now as we jump up to the outside here in turns 3 and turns 4, already going to go by the 7-time champion of Jimmy Johnson here as we go down the front straightaway to the back now, the 96 of Daniel Suarez, who is in real life not returning to that 96 car next season. So obviously you can see that play out in our career mode at some point as well now as we come through turns 1 and 2. Chase Elliott there in 14th. He had a great result last time out, finished I believe in 2nd place behind Kyle Busch in the last episode in the Coca-Cola 600 for that second crown jewel race of the season there. As you see Ryan Newman all the way up by the wall, right where I like to run now as we come through out of turns 4, closing in on the back of Newman very quickly here on the end of lap 2. I'm, of course, going to get aggressive here, make it 3 wide between the 2 Roush Fenway drivers of Ryan Newman and Chris Buescher, who was in his first season here on that Roush Fenway racing team with the number 17 as we come through turns 1 in that middle lane. But, of course, one thing I've always struggled with here at Kansas in the NASCAR Heat Games is if I'm not on the top lane, I cannot pass anybody to save my life. Now, as I tried the bottom lane, though, into turn 3, there was a little bit of contact there between the Roush Fenway duo of Buescher and Newman as we come through out of turns 4, but I just have nothing on the exit of the corner, so we're still side by side with Buescher and Newman. But now Chase Elliott is able to pounce on an opportunity here and get to the outside of Buescher. We're still going to be 3 wide into turns 1 with 16 laps to go here in stage 1. Joey Logano, though, has the lead at this point now as we come through out of turns 2, clearing Buescher, thankfully, and out of turns 2, that allows me to get up in front of him and get in behind Chase Elliott. So I get back up to that outside lane, and sure enough, down the front straightaway, we get a run on Ryan Newman here on lap 5 and go to the outside of him and Elliott 3 wide again as we dive down into turns 1. But now the lead was taken by Martin Truex Jr., who had passed, of course, Joey Logano for the lead. Now has come through out of turns 2. Bowman here is in the middle of a 3 wide between myself and Chase Elliott. We're going to pass Bowman, myself, and Elliott clearly faster than a lot of these guys in this general area because both of us are just kind of flying by. I think Elliott had a little bit more speed than me in this first opening stint of this race, but we use that outside to our advantage and we fight back to the outside of Chase Elliott. Now, unfortunately, one thing I was noticing is that Elliott just was able to make the bottom work so well, and I could not pass him, and we both ourselves would run down Eric Almirola there in the number 10 cars. Now, Kevin Harvick was leading, so quite a few lead changes in the opening portion of this race. Only on lap 7, though, at this point. It's been a very action-packed opening start to this race, at least for ourselves here in the 20 car now, as we came through now on lap 8. Still, myself, Elliott battling side by side, but none of us can pass the 10 of Eric Almirola at this point. But now we're going to get aggressive aggressive here out of turns 2, and we're going to make it 3 wide. Again, Elliott on the bottom, Almirola middle, myself up on the top by the wall as we dive down towards turns 3. Both of myself and Elliott don't want to be around each other anymore. We've been battling side by side for so long, and it is going to continue as we exit turns 4 and leave Almirola behind now as we go down the front straightaway, nearly having enough momentum to clear Elliott with 11 to go on the stage, but it didn't quite happen, so we come through now on lap 11 of 19. Chris Buescher had worked his way up the field a little bit now. Buescher definitely been seeming to turn it up a little bit here lately in the career mode, but then the caution actually comes out here with less than 10 laps to go in stage 1, so now everybody going to have to come to the pit lane. Of course, we're just going to do 2 cans of fuel and then put 4 fresh tires on the car. But you also see right there, I make a wedge adjustment. I go from 50 flat to 49.8. I felt like the car definitely could be a little bit looser. It felt just a little bit too tight. And we gain 1 position on the pit lane and beat Chase Elliott now. So we're going to be P11 and he will be P12 now as we're ready to go green here for the first restart of the night as the green flag is back out. Kevin Harvick leads away with 5 laps to go here in this first. In opening stage, William Byron there in the 10th position. He is currently well inside the playoffs. Byron definitely stepped it up in the NASCAR Heat 5 career mode versus the NASCAR Heat 4 career mode. So pretty obvious that his AI is a lot better this time around than the last game. Now as we're up the inside of Christopher Bell as we exit turns 2 side by side with our affiliate teammate there in that 95 Ream Toyota Camry as we dive down into turns 3. Kyle Busch all the way to the outside along with the 2 car of Brad Keselowski as we come through out of turns 4. Being on the bottom lane though, I am stuck. I just could not pass the 95 of Christopher Bell. So of course I'm looking for an opportunity to get to the top lane, but I see William Byron coming very quickly, so I know my chances aren't very good, and now we only have 4 laps to go here in stage 1. So we're trying to get, of course, stage points here in the first stage. That's one of our biggest struggles this season, is getting stage points. Now as we go down this backstretch, William Byron hauls right on by me, so I slide up right in behind him and take over the 11th position, and then sure enough coming to the white flag now in stage 1. We got to the outside of William Byron trying to get that 10th spot there as the white flag is out here in stage 1. Ryan Blaney is now out front. Him and Denny Hamlin kind of been the 2 front runners this season, and now it's Hamlin in second place actually just behind Ryan Blaney as we go down the back straightaway here for the final time in stage 1. Quite the run we have on the back of William Byron as we go down the back straightaway into turns 3. Actually made a very tiny amount of contact on his back bumper, and it actually gave him a boost into turns 3. So now William Byron will hold on to that 10th position as Ryan Blaney holds off Hamlin for the stage victory. We come through to get P11 here in the first stage in the Digital Ally 400. So definitely not what we were looking for there in stage 1, but considering where we started, P18, wasn't too disappointed with that. I honestly feel like we have a top 10 car here. I just didn't quite work out there in stage 1. So hopefully it will here in stage 2. I make another slight wedge adjustment, as well as I bump up the right side tire pressures just a little bit now, hoping that it'll free up the car just a tiny bit more. I wanted the car just to be a little bit more free, and our team gets us off the pit lane ahead of William Byron. So we will now line up in the 10th position here at Kansas Speedway now as the green flag is back out, and once again we are underway now for the start of the second stage. Kurt Busch on my inside in that number 1 Monster Energy Chevrolet there for Chip Ganassi Racing. Just behind us we got Chris Buescher. William Byron now up my inside. Now is Logano going all the way to the outside there, and then he's trying to get back down in line through turns 1 and 2. Only 17 laps here as well in the second stage, so not quite as much time, just a few laps less here than stage 1 as we dive down towards turns 3 just behind that 95 of Christopher Bell. Chase Elliott and Eric Almirola side by side behind us now as we're already up on the outside lane, of course, and Bell actually backed out of it for some reason. I wasn't even near the right rear of his car, and he just kind of got off the throttle. So now we get to the outside of Joey Logano as well as we dive down into turns 1. William Byron on the inside of him as we get right on that seam there, and then we push up the track. Hamlin all the way up by the wall as well as we come through out of turns 2. Ryan Blaney still leading there as we make a tiny bit of contact there on the right side of the 22 of Joey Logano's cars as we dive down into turns 3, but we continue this momentum with the outside lane. We now get to the outside of Martin Truex Jr. as we dive down into turns 1, and William Byron would pass him as well. We were 3 wide again with Truex and Byron that time as we come through turns 1 and 2. So just continuing to make this outside line work to my advantage now as we come through out of turns 4, but unfortunately Kurt Busch took my lane, so now I have to drop down to the bottom trying to pass him. I was hoping I would have enough momentum down the straightaway to clear him. Unfortunately, it did not happen as we dive down into turns 1, so I realized right here on lap 4 of stage 2, I made a mistake there going to the bottom, and now we're going to have to try and fight back up to that outside lane. And as we exit turns 2, here comes Kurt Busch with a huge run down the back straightaway. He's going to clear me with no problem, so I jump right back into the outside lane as we dive down into turns 3, and thankfully we hold on to P9, but then Christopher Bell is actually able to pass me there for that 9th spot, as once again we're stuck behind Kurt Busch, but I'm going to get aggressive here and make it 3 wide on the outside of turns 4 now as we come through to cross the line. Now side by side with Kurt, and now Joey Logano, who has gotten to my inside. Bell was able to carry the momentum all the way down the straightaway, so we lose a spot to Joey Logano now, but we do pass Kurt Busch, who still would try to stay up my inside though out of turns 4. Now on lap 10, Logano had passed William Byron and moved into P8, and now we finally are able to get clear of Kurt Busch down the front straightaways. I kind of chop his nose on purpose right there to make sure he could not fight back as we went down into turns 1. Now as we run in the 10th position, sure enough now on lap 11 of 17 out of turns 4, I fight to the outside now of William Byron, and for some reason I really felt the car starting to come in at this point, and sure enough it did. It took all the way to lap 13, like 3 laps to pass William Byron down the front straightaway there as we would take over P9 with 4 laps to go in stage 2. So we were running down this next group of cars as well as we were approaching 2 laps to go in the second stage. Hamlin out front though at this point. Ryan Blaney won stage 1. Hamlin was second in stage 1. And now Hamlin is looking like he's going to get a stage victory now as the tire icon actually comes on the screen. But that does not matter at this point now as we're coming through to the white flag here in stage 2. We had run down Truex, Bell, and Joey Logano. The potential here to get up into P6 if we manage to make a big move as we dive down into turns 1 and 2 here on the final lap of the second stage. Bell on that second lane, Truex on his inside, Logano clear both of them as we go down the back straightaway. We're going to get aggressive and we're going to make it 3 wide up the inside into turns 3 on the final lap here. In stage 3, or in stage 2, we send it into turn 3, we hit the apron, we slide up the track, and the move does not work at all. Truex goes by, as well does Christopher Bell, but it was worth a shot anyways as we exit turns 4, side drafting the 95, but it's not enough. P9 here in stage 2, but like I said, it was worth it going for that now, as that was just like a last dash attempt there to try and get anything I could. But clearly that stage really boosted my confidence there. In that last half of that second stage, we really started to make up some ground. So I feel like the short run is something that definitely doesn't play into our favor here today in Kansas. But if we can just hang on as much as we can on that short run, we might have something here in the long run as we get ready to go green for the 3rd and final stage. I really hope it stays green here, guys. We might have something for them. Let's go get it here. Alright, there you hear the radio transmission from myself as we're ready to go green for the 3rd and final stage, which is now underway. We're in P7 here. We gained a good chunk of ground there on the paint lane, and you notice the stage winner of Denny Hamlin behind me. He had a terrible pit stop now, as he is, of course, behind us. P9 from P1 at the end of stage 2 there. So now, a lot of trouble for Hamlin, but we know he clearly has a fast car, so I would not put it past him to work his way through the field very quickly now as we're down the back straightaway side by side with the 18 of Kyle Busch as he's clear, and I'm going to jump up in between Kyle Busch and my other teammate of Martin Truex Jr. to get up to the outside as we come through turns 3 and 4 for the first time here on the 3rd and final stage. Hamlin going to make it 3 wide. All of the JGR cars here right together from 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. There's a little bit of contact there on the left rear with the right front of Kyle Busch, but we all keep it together now as we dive down into turns 1 after completing the first lap here of the 3rd stage. There you see on that bottom lane Kurt Busch right behind Kyle Busch now, as well as Matt Kenseth putting the pressure on his teammate of Kurt as we go down this backstretch side by side with Denny Hamlin, who is very clearly the fastest car here right now. He's going to send it into turn 3 wide on Logano, and Kevin Harvick, they're battling side by side. I'm going to carry the momentum through as well on the exit of turns 4, make it 3 wide with them as we go down the front straightaway, trying to take over P4 as Keselowski finds himself out front with 23 laps to go over his Penske teammate of Ryan Blaney, who has won so far 2 races already this season now as we come through turns 1 and 2 now, but then through turns 3 on lap 45 now. Hamlin putting the pressure on Keselowski, who would pass Blaney, but we're still 3 wide with Joey Logano and Kevin Harvick there, but I clear Logano, making a little bit of contact with Harvick as well, like we did with Kyle Busch there, but we all keep it together once again as we dive down into turns 1. Hamlin is going to take the lead away from Brad Keselowski, and then sure enough now, all of us kind of together with Keselowski, Blaney, Harvick, Blaney running up on the top lane. He was very slow on the front stretch for some reason. Nothing was wrong with his car because he keeps it together into turns 1, but unfortunately takes my lane away, and I cannot pass to save my life on the bottom unless I try a full send slide job. So I kind of get stuck behind Blaney, and then on the exit of turns 4, he has a bit of a hiccup there having to get out of the throttle, so I take a 3 wide to the outside with him and Kyle Busch as we go down into turns 1. Hamlin, though, at this point, driving away from second place of Keselowski. Third belongs to Harvick, but not for long, because Kyle Busch, our teammate, is going to get up the inside of the 2014 Cup Series champion here, as now Blaney was trying to look like he was getting, or trying to get to the inside of Kyle Busch, but didn't make it work until turn 3. He does get up the inside of Kyle, and then drives right on by him now as he comes through out of turns 4. So now it's between myself and Kyle in a battle for that 5th position here, as Hamlin, though, just completely destroying everybody right now as he's driving away with 18 laps to go here in Kansas Speedway as we dive down into turns 1. Of course, just running the outside. Everybody at this point was on the bottom, but then Keselowski now on lap 54 coming to lap 55. He had moved up to the top a little bit now, as I was a little bit surprised that I was actually able to stick with these guys now with 13 laps to go. Now, though, starting to think about green flag pit stops. Are we going to have to make a green flag pit stop now as come through out of turns 4? Definitely thinking about it, getting ready potentially to maybe try the short stop strategy like we did at Charlotte, although that strategy failed as we get to the outside of Kyle Busch, side drafting him with 11 to go, but can't quite make it work as we dive down into turns 1 now. So I was thinking we're only going to do a 2-tire stop here when we come to the pit lane as we dive down into turns 3. Kyle Busch on the inside, but then the caution comes out with 11 laps to go here in Kansas. Everybody is no longer going to have to make a green flag pit stop, but same strategy anyways. We're going to come in, we're going to put 2 tires on the car, and then put about 1 can of fuel in the car. I could not find what brought out the cautions in this race. None of the replays showed it, but I'm assuming someone probably blew a tire or something, or an engine, either one. But we would put, like I said, 1 can of fuel in the car, right side tires. I was a little bit concerned with history with right side tires that the car gets pretty loose, so I actually put up the wedge by 0.1 just to make sure it was just a tiny bit tighter, just to play it a little bit safe here on this restart, to make sure we come home with a very solid finish now, as I feel like this restart completely takes our chances away of having a chance to maybe somehow steal a win on strategy. So unfortunately, it's not going to quite work out in our favor. We can't try no undercut now as we dive down towards turns 1, but now the main goal is bringing it home in the top 10. Stage 1 and 2 didn't quite go exactly how we had planned, but we've had an incredible third and final stage because we've clearly shown that if we can get up here, we have the speed to contend with these front runners now as we go down this backstretch. Truex up by inside into turn 3. Christopher Bell trying to follow through as well. Less than 10 laps to go here in Kansas Speedway as we exit turns 4 side by side there with the 19, getting right to that right side of his car now as we come through, crossing the line now as we came through, though, into turns 3 on lap 62. Just 6 laps to go. Truex up the inside of Kevin Harvick. Bell up the inside of me on the very bottom of the track. Hamlin still driving away. Kyle Busch trying to get that 2nd position, but Keselowski is putting him under the pressure as we go down this front stretch here. 5 laps to go as we're going to look to the outside of Harvick, 3 wide with him and Christopher Bell into turns 1 now as we just continue to try and eat away at these guys in front of us, but definitely not quite working right now as we're just kind of stuck here in about P8 now as we're still 3 wide with Harvick and Bell down the backstretch into turns 3. Kyle Busch lost that spot to Keselowski and now is trying to hold off Ryan Blaney and Martin Truex Jr., who tries to put the pressure on him as well. Now he's came through out of turns 4, though, with 3 laps to go. Now Blaney kind of falls down a little bit and I pounce on that opportunity. Myself and Bell were ahead now of Kevin Harvick, and Bell, of course, ahead of me now as we're going to be 3 wide again with Blaney and Harvick. A lot of action-packed racing here now as we're going to kind of thread the needle there. Not much room between myself and the wall and Christopher Bell, but we make it work now as we get to his outside with just 2 laps to go. Hamlin now just hoping it stays green at this point as we're now running down Kyle Busch as we come through out of turns 2. Harvick going to make it 3 wide with myself and Bell for a brief moment there as we get into the back of our teammate Kyle Busch, pushing him down the straightaway into turns 3. Unfortunately, once again, Kyle Busch takes our lane away. Now Harvick has passed Bell and has gotten to my inside as he's going to clear me out of turns 4 as he's going to be side by side with now Kyle Busch as well as myself at his right rear as we start the final lap here in Kansas Speedway as we dive down towards turns 1 for the final time. Denny Hamlin with the lead as we come through the center of the corner, getting very close to that outside wall now as we're going to hang on, though the tire icon comes on. Doesn't matter at this point. The tires will make it, of course, another half a lap as we dive down towards turn 3. Harvick up the inside of Martin Truex. We get to the outside of Kyle Busch, kind of catching him off guard through turns 3 and at turns 4 to the outside. We have the momentum. We might be able to get a top 5, but no, the caution comes out here on the final lap, coming to the line and ends the race probably like 7 seconds early. Now as Denny Hamlin hangs on for the victory, and that is already his 4th win of the season. We hang on for P6. I think we were going to get Kyle Busch there at the line, though, if it stayed green. But what a race it was. Jimmy Johnson down there in P17 and notable, Chase Elliott 15th. But like I said, what a race. Action-packed, but very clean at the same time. So it was definitely a fun race. A very rough day for Bubba Wallace down in P36. Not what he needs right now in the current situation where he is on that playoff bubble here. So definitely unfortunate for Bubba. Now, here's something a little bit different here. I'm actually showing my heart rate throughout this race on your screen now. So my average heart rate throughout the recording of this race was 108 beats per minute, and it actually peaked at 121. I have a Fitbit, and it obviously tracks it throughout the day and shows when I did the races and stuff, and I think that's really cool. So there you guys see that. Now, as if you guys, of course, enjoyed this episode, you do know what to do. And in the next one, I'm very excited because I think we're going to Michigan, which you could arguably say kind of like my home track. Of course, I live in Canada, but I'm about 4 hours or so away from Michigan, as well as about the similar distance to Watkins Glen. So I kind of consider those two my quote-unquote kind of home tracks now for the Cup Series schedule. Now, as there you see, we will be going truck racing too in the next one. We did not have a truck race here in today's episode, or the Xfinity Series. I don't think we will be going to Michigan. I'm not sure what the schedule is for the Xfinity Series in the next one, but it is indeed Michigan here for the Cup Series in the next one. Now, as you see the playoff grid on your screen, Ryan Blaney actually has 3 wins. I said he had 2 at some point in that race there. As you see, Kurt Busch back on the outside looking in on the playoffs, 3 points out. Bubba Wallace 37 out now. Jimmy Johnson 39, Austin Dillon 40, Matt DiBenedetto 42, who's kind of been struggling lately as well. So a lot of work for them. Chase Elliott even further out, but I think Elliott probably has the best chance, even though he's even further down to make that playoff. Now, as you see, some of the stats actually from the drivers like Denny Hamlin, who's led a lot of laps this season, so is Kyle Busch. And hopefully we can lead a bunch more throughout the season. But that will do it for this episode. Thank you all for taking the time out of your day for watching. And I will see you guys in the next one at Michigan. Thank you for watching, everybody, and have yourselves a great day.